In our Ephesians Bible class in the second half of the book, there's a lot of contrast between the way of the Christian, the way of light, the way of love, and the way of the world. And there's a poetic description of that difference in Psalm 1, which I'd like for us to look at together tonight. It says, "Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the path of sinners, nor sits in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law he meditates day and night. He shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that brings forth its fruit in its season, whose leaf also shall not wither, and whatever he does shall prosper. The ungodly are not so, but are like the chaff which the wind drives away. Therefore the ungodly shall not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord knows the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly shall perish." This is the picture of the way of righteousness, the way of God walking for us as Christians, worthy of the calling with which we're called. And it means a contrast in how we stand, how we sit, how we walk between us and the world. But the reward is, when we delight in the law of the Lord, is that we are like the tree planted by the rivers of water that brings forth its fruit in its seasons. It reminds me of the tree metaphor that we looked at in Ephesians chapter 3, where we're told that Paul is praying for these Ephesian Christians, that they will be rooted and grounded in love, and to know the width and length and depth and height, to know the love of God that passes knowledge. This is kind of the same metaphor here. This beautiful picture of a tree planted by a river of water that is able to bear fruit and prosper because it is blessed by God, because it's rooted in love for God, delight in God, and love for the ways of God. Compare that with chaff. Here you've got something blowing in the wind, unstable, having no value, having no permanence. That is the fate and really the reality. It's hard to imagine a bigger difference than something rooted and grounded versus something being blown in the wind. In fact, any plant that's being blown in the wind is not going to live. It's pretty much dead. It is dying, if it's not already dead. And so, we live in a world where it seems like many unrighteous might be prospering. Well, that's not the true condition. The reality is the righteous who are rooted in God, who are truly prospering. And that will be most evident in the final judgment, which is described there. The ungodly will not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. Everything that we practice has to stand the examination of God. Everything that everyone in the world practices has to stand the examination of God. Can it stand in the judgment? Now, it says the Lord knows the way of the righteous, and so it expresses the idea that God is watching over us and knows what we are doing. But the reason why God knows our ways and is watching over them with loving kindness and care is because we of the righteous are knowing and seeking his ways and walking in his ways. The alternative is to walk in a way that leads to destruction, and that's why the way of the ungodly shall perish. And let's gain encouragement and resolve to be rooted and grounded in the love of God and walk in righteousness from this psalm.